Singapore is set to host the first ever aviation safety summit as travel resumes in a big way post-COVID restrictions. The meeting will explore the airworthiness of aircraft, which were held in storage, as well as the emergence of new technologies such as unmanned aviation systems. The three-day event in March will gather government and industry leaders who will discuss initiatives to strengthen aviation safety, including harnessing operational data and technology. It's organized by the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore, or CAAS, and the Flight Safety Foundation. CAAS says that while countries have their own national regimes, aviation is cross-border. It stressed the importance of region-wide cooperation to ensure aviation safety, as well as the timeliness of the summit as air travel resumes to pre-pandemic levels. And for more, we speak to Michael Daniel, the International Aviation Safety Consultant. He is also Managing Director at Aviation Insight. Michael, thanks for joining us. Now, travel has come back in a big way. What are some of the factors that are impacting, airline safety regimes?
Well, in addition to the travel and quarantine restrictions levied by the governments and public health officials, the pandemic was a significant challenge for regulators, the airlines and airports that had to adapt with a sudden decrease and now this rapid increase of air operation activities. For instance, airlines had to park airplanes for months and literally had to preserve aircraft for long-term storage. Additionally, many personnel were retrenched or laid off because airlines were not flying. So now the aviation sector is in a capacity recovery mode and trying to keep up with the opening of borders and the increase of the passenger traffic. The airlines are also required to use safety management systems protocols to identify hazards and utilize risk management to mitigate those hazards and ensure they have the appropriate emergency response plans to deal with those emergency situations. So it's a safety management system which I believe holds key for the airline's recovery.
Yeah, Michael, how does the travel buzz that we're seeing affect flights in Asia in particular?
Okay, well, keeping in mind now, so we have a rapid increase of travel upwards to 70 to 85% of pre-COVID levels. But for Asia in particular, there's nothing in a sense that Asia is immune to the same situations as impacted other airlines around the world. I would say maybe one of the factors that could impact Asia is the actual environment, the environment where the aircraft were parked, for how long they were parked. Corrosion is a factor of aircraft that have long-term storage because of the humidity. And so those are some factors that have to be considered.
Also, another issue that, we've been hearing about, facing the airline industry is manpower. How big an issue is manpower now? What are some of the challenges on that front?
Absolutely. Well, so when you look at the aviation safety statistics, so overall, we still have a very good safety record. So that's important to keep in mind. But then for the human resource part of it, I'd like to point out the responsibilities of the accountable managers of the airlines, because they're the ones that are responsible for the finance and resources to ensure that all these safety practices are being appropriately met. There is, I think, an important point to make with regard to due diligence of accountable managers, in the sense that when you ask the question, how do you know that their company is performing effectively and safely, and especially with the resources? And so that at times like that, it's okay to bring in third-party observers, independent safety reviews to answer that question, to help those accountable managers, in particular with the resource demands.
Yeah, and building on that point, what other, air safety issues do you think need more attention, especially now with air travel picking up quite rapidly?
Okay, well, I think what deserves probably the most attention are the factors that impact public confidence. So when you look at, what is it that the public needs to know, what they should be aware of, because normally the flying passenger doesn't know what happens behind the scenes. When you have behind the scenes issues of weather deviations or let's say mechanical failures or some emergency response, so the typical flying public may not know what's really going on behind the scenes, the machinery to ensure that those issues are being appropriately dealt with. So I think with that in mind, that's one of the key areas for the Safety Summit coming up. It's a very strong summit. They have good program, they have good agenda items, but at the end of the conference, what have they done, or what we have done to ensure public confidence in flying?
And finally, Michael, how has the use of new technology that we've seen emerge over the past few years, such as AI, helped to bridge some of those gaps in the aviation industry as travel recovers? And also, what should airlines and airports, be mindful of when deploying such technology?
Okay, so you mentioned earlier was mentioned artificial intelligence. So that's just another aspect of, let's say, evolution of aviation safety. I will tell you, though, if it weren't for the technological enhancements and evolution for the aircraft design and production and maintenance, we wouldn't have the safety record we have today. The one area of artificial intelligence, I think, that would be key for focus would be in the failure modes and effects analysis part of it, the human factors part of it. When you have the human interface with the machinery or the electronics, what is it that AI can help resolve or quickly resolve emergency issues? So that would be, I think, one area keen for, in this case, artificial intelligence.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for speaking with us. That was Michael Daniel, International Aviation Safety Consultant.